A part that mentioned the girl was having issues understanding the severity of the murders.
We all know she'll be out in the community one day, that's inevitable. And what kind of person is she going to be? What kind of adult is she going to be? So those are the types of questions I have daily, and especially when there's an annual review.
Imagine you had a seemingly harmless teenage daughter who conspired with a man 11 years her senior to murder everyone in your family. This is the true story of Jasmine Richardson, a criminal mastermind in the murder case of her own family. The events of this case unfolded in Medicine Hat, Alberta, Canada back in 2006, shedding light on a tragic tale of family discord, youthful infatuation, and ultimately unspeakable violence. At the heart of this story lies Jasmine Richardson, a 12-year-old girl living with her parents, Mark and Deborah, and her 8-year-old brother, Jacob. Mark and Deborah, having grappled with substance abuse in the past, met during a recovery program and built a life together. Meanwhile, Jasmine was a curious soul. She gradually found interest in Wiccan spirituality and Gothic subculture, finding fascination in the darker aspects of life, including the notorious deeds of serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer. He has killed many victims between the ages of 17 and 31. This wasn't the kind of thing any parent would want their child to have so much interest in. It was amidst this backdrop that Jasmine's path crossed with that of Jeremy Steinke, who had a troubled history of his own. She was just 12 and he was 23, and the two formed an unlikely bond. Their connection, which some allege to be either at a punk concert or through online channels, blossomed into a relationship fueled by shared interests in dark fantasies. However, their association raised serious concerns, particularly due to the significant age gap and Jasmine's tender age. It seemed like an addictive and manipulative kind of relationship. As their relationship deepened, Jasmine found herself drawn to Jeremy's alternative lifestyle, which stood in stark contrast to her conservative upbringing. Her parents, Mark and Deborah Richardson, grew increasingly concerned about their daughter's association with Steinke. They perceived his influence to be detrimental to Jasmine's well-being. Despite objections from her parents and friends, Jasmine's infatuation with Jeremy persisted, leading to clandestine meetings and online conversations. There were times when Jasmine would be grounded with the hopes that she would get back to her right mind and stop seeing Steinke. This went the opposite, as Jasmine wanted her family out of the way so she could be with her self-acclaimed werewolf of a lover. The rebellious teenager saw Steinke as a symbol of freedom from the constraints imposed by her family. Their exchanges took a sinister turn when Jasmine broached the idea of eliminating her family. Fueling each other's dark desires, they plotted a heinous act that would shatter anyone who heard it. In a text before she acted, Jasmine wrote to her boyfriend, Steinke, a self-proclaimed 300-year-old werewolf, captivated Jasmine with his mystique and unconventional beliefs. To her impressionable young mind, he represented an escape from the mundane reality of her suburban existence. Together, they delved deeper into their shared fantasies, immersing themselves in a world where darkness reigned supreme. The Richardson family's idyllic facade shattered on the fateful night of April 23, 2006. Armed with a twisted determination fueled by their shared fantasies, Jasmine and Jeremy carried out a heinous act that would forever alter the course of their lives and the lives of those around them. They clearly acted on impulse. No sane person would plan murder and ignore the consequences. In a bid to execute their plans, Steinke made sure he was right out of his conscious mind. He was fueled by intoxicants and a warped sense of reality. He donned a disguise by using a ski mask before infiltrating the Richardson family home. Under the cover of darkness, Steinke entered the Richardson family home, his mind consumed by visions of mythical creatures and ancient curses. With chilling efficiency, Jeremy silenced the voices of Mark and Deborah Richardson, extinguishing their lives in a brutal onslaught of violence. First, he stabbed Deborah multiple times until she was completely without life, and when her husband heard her screaming, he rushed over to find out what was wrong. Jeremy pounced him. Mark was stabbed more times than his wife and was left for dead. Jasmine, who was a witness to the horror unfolding before her, remained complicit in the act, her loyalty to Steinke eclipsing any sense of familial duty or moral obligation. The lifeless bodies of Mark and Deborah Richardson lay in silent repose, their dreams and aspirations cruelly snuffed out by the merciless hands of their own daughter and her accomplice. But their madness did not end there. In a final act of depravity, Steinke sought out Jasmine's 8-year-old brother, Jacob, robbing him of his innocence and extinguishing the light of his young life. Jasmine stabbed her brother multiple times, but Jeremy ended it by slitting the child's tender throat. They then left the house, satisfied with the thought that no one could separate them anymore. They proceeded to live their normal lives as a couple, and reports have it that they were seen kissing in a restaurant just hours after the murder. This act shows no remorse for what they had just done. They had no idea of the mess they just got themselves into. The craziest delusion was that they believed that this would mark the beginning of their happily ever after. A young boy, barely 6 years old, stumbled upon the murder scene. Peering through a window, he saw something that no child should ever see: the lifeless forms of Mark and Deborah Richardson. The horror didn't end there. Inside the house, the body of young Tyler was lifeless on the bed. The initial investigation into the Richardson family murders painted a nightmarish scene. Upon discovering the bodies, authorities were deeply concerned about the missing daughter, 12-year-old Jasmine Richardson. The police initially thought that Jasmine had been abducted after losing her family, but further investigation proved otherwise. The evidence contradicted the kidnapping theory, pointing instead to a horrifying truth: Jasmine might be involved. The following day, on April 24, 2006, the agonizing wait for answers ended. Jasmine and her boyfriend, Jeremy Steinke, were apprehended roughly 100 miles away. The manhunt culminated in a grim reality. Both were charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, forever altering the course of their lives and shattering the fragile piece of medicine hat. While awaiting trial, these lovers did many weird things that exposed the level of obsession that existed between them. Jeremy proposed to Jasmine via jailhouse letters, and she accepted. They somehow remained positive that they would miraculously have their normal lives back. When the investigation started, the search for a motive and evidence led investigators to a tangled web, online accounts belonging to both Jasmine and Jeremy. Initially, it seemed Jeremy, the older and seemingly more dominant partner, might be the mastermind behind the killings. But a closer look at the digital trail revealed Jasmine birthed the murder idea whilst Jeremy tried to put the execution plan together. Aside from Jasmine's text, which we earlier stated, one message on Jeremy's social media page was especially damning. It clearly showed they planned the murders, how they would do it, and why they wanted to do it. The ensuing trial laid bare the chilling details of the Richardson family murders, exposing the depths of human depravity and the destructive power of unchecked obsession. Despite their youth and the twisted allure of their shared fantasies, both Jasmine and Jeremy were held accountable for their actions. During the trial, Jasmine was asked why she killed her family, and Jasmine said, Fast forward to 2007, Jasmine was 14 at the time. She went on trial and pleaded not guilty to the 3 counts of first-degree murder against her. The trial lasted for a grueling month, filled with emotional testimony and harrowing evidence. The prosecution meticulously presented the details of the case, using the incriminating emails between Jasmine and Steinke as a linchpin. Expert witnesses weighed in on her mental state and Steinke's manipulative influence. Jasmine's defense countered by portraying her as a vulnerable child, pressured and ultimately coerced into horrific acts. After 3 anxious hours of deliberation, the jury delivered their verdict in July of 2007. Jasmine Richardson was found guilty on all 3 counts of first-degree murder. This verdict solidified her place as the youngest person in Canadian history to be convicted of multiple first-degree murders. Jasmine Richardson, shielded by the cloak of youth, received a maximum youth sentence of 10 years, which encompassed both custody and community supervision. Jasmine's punishment was divided into 3 parts. She first received credit for time already spent in jail, 18 months. Following that, she would be placed in a secure mental health facility for 4 years. Finally, upon release from the facility, she would be subject to strict supervision in the community for an additional 4.5 years. In December 2008, Jasmine Richardson's boyfriend and accomplice, Jeremy Steinke, went on trial. Despite the testimony of his terminally ill mother, Jacqueline May, that Jeremy had been bullied, abused, cut himself, and suicidal in his youth, and the testimony of Deborah Richardson's brother, Peter Doolin, forgiving Steinke, he was found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder. Judge Adele Kent sentenced him to 3 concurrent life sentences in prison. Despite these attempts to garner sympathy, the prosecution presented a compelling case based on evidence and witness testimonies. The jury found Steinke guilty on all 3 counts of first-degree murder. Judge Adele Kent sentenced him to the harshest punishment possible under Canadian law. 3 life sentences served concurrently, with eligibility for parole only after 25 years, meaning somewhere around the year 2033, when he will be close to 50 years old. Back to Jasmine. The initial reporting of Jasmine Richardson's sentence suggested a 10-year prison term. However, according to updated information, she was released in 2011 under court-ordered supervision. This allowed her to enroll in Mount Royal University in Calgary that fall. By 2016, after successfully completing the full program, she was finally released from any court-ordered restrictions or oversight. Jasmine's release in 2016 wasn't without its complexities. Her lawyer, Catherine Bayak, expressed confidence in Jasmine's rehabilitation, believing the system has worked in this case and that Jasmine posed a low risk of reoffending. The optimism was bolstered by the fact that Jasmine's youth criminal records would be sealed after 5 years of crime-free living as an adult. Do you think Jasmine can live a normal life again? What will come of Jeremy? Will they share their lives if he is ever released? Or will she move on? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more harrowing true crime stories. Until next time, be safe.